There's lots of nerds in this nation, I can guarantee you that, my friend. Gourmet number 29, dinner time. Well, hello, my brothers and sisters of the Nerd Nation. I, as always, am Jim, here to bring you another review on the awesome, the appetite-inducing, the action-packed tale of Toriko. Our last chapter, of course, saw everything finishing up and really kind of starting to come to a close as far as the fight in the Coliseum. The GT robot was defeated, and it was really the first time that we saw Toriko ever really take any damage or really face any kind of adversity where he actually had to think a little bit before he just, where he had to think strategically to win, is what I mean. The chapter ended, of course, with him befriending the Battle Wolf, who he named Terry Cloth, but we'll just call him Terry for short, because if I say Terry Cloth, I'm going to think of like a robe. So that's where things left off. This chapter, and where it picks up, is shortly after that, and the chapter is entitled Dinnertime. And really, this is kind of one of those more like fun, lighthearted, introduce some characters, and further the story along type of chapter. The chapter starts out, and we wind up seeing Director Mansom. He's like, hey, we got everything prepared over here. We got a feast, and if you wind up leaving here hungry, it's your own damn fault. Eat as much as you want, blah, 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 right? And then they go and they show the table that everybody is going to come and sit around, and the table's got to be like, I don't know, 80 by 80 feet or something round, this huge thing. I mean, there's like an entire like roasted dragon on the table laying there, and it only takes up like maybe like a fifth of the table, if that. There's what looks like a walrus laying there. There's all these different items. And Director Mansom, and actually Komatsu is like just completely starstruck, you know what I mean? He's just like, oh my god, I've never even seen or heard of half of these things, And Director Mansom goes and says, I got everything here on my full course menu, so if you go home hungry, it's your own fault. And we wind up seeing his full course menu, and it's a lot of Bacchus dragon, Bacchus this, Bacchus that. But what it is and all the capture levels are up, at high 20s, 30s, that sort of thing. However, I don't take a lot of that to heart because honestly, Gourmet Corp, or I'm sorry, the IGO over here, they produce I think 30% of the world's gourmet ingredients and what have you. So a lot of these animals are raised in captivity, and it doesn't take as much to me to go and and have somebody else go and harpoon or kill something that you've already got captured anyway, or that's been raised from from birth or cloned, and they're a little more docile and that sort of thing. So I don't really think much of the capture levels on his particular menu, but nonetheless, some of the things are pretty impressive, and we find out very quickly that every one of them has to do with alcohol. It has alcohol in it, beer battered this. For instance, this Bacchus dragon, and Komatsu comments on it, and Toriko goes, yeah, the island that it comes from, there's so much alcohol flowing on the island that it actually gets into it actually gets into the Bacchus dragon, from just wherever. It becomes part of it, So when you go and you cook this bad boy up, it actually tastes like a mellow brandy, which I thought was kind of cool. So we wind up getting, we also get, kind of a shot, too, as everybody's sitting down. Toriko's going, and he's all banged up. He's all cut up and everything, and he starts eating up. And Komatsu notices that as he's eating, and he goes over and looks at him, and he sees that he's already piled up like 50 plates. He's like, damn speed eater, And Komatsu's just like cutting into this piece of meat, like tofu, whatever it is, And he goes and he's like, damn, Toriko, his face is all healed up, his cuts, And then he goes and he says, I remember when I poured alcohol on Director Mansom, he healed up too, They must have some kind of healing factor, healing ability. So hopefully that'll be explained. I know some of you have hinted at it, and it's definitely something that, I like to actually have a little bit of an explanation on, other than just like, hey, I can get shot, stabbed, whatever, and I'm just fine if I eat some food. Certainly it's nice to get those explanations, in my opinion anyway. So we wind up getting a little bit more of a background, too. We see, it's kind of funny because everybody starts arguing about things. Well, Rin goes and she's like, all this, she doesn't drink, so she's basically like, this menu sucks, And he's like, hey, and Director Mansom's like, do whatever you want, have parfait if you want, I don't give a damn. So she's going and trying to share parfait with Ricky, and parfait, it's a bunch of different like melons and pineapple and fruits and stuff like that. It's this giant bowl, and that Ricky, that leopard-looking flying leopard sidekick, I guess you would call it, a pet of of director Mansom. She's like, come on, you're going to share that with me, aren't you? Anyway, while this is all going on, Toriko goes and he's like, God, out of everybody here and all this food around, you're the most well-behaved one. He looks over at Terry, and Terry's just sitting, in the corner like a good dog, a good animal, whatever, you know what I mean? Not coming up to the table, not bothering anybody. And he's like, he goes, Director Mansom, he's kind of inner monologuing. He says, Director Mansom took an interest, obviously, in the bond that they have between those two, because generally, gourmet beasts, especially something like the battle wolf, they do not bond or bode well with humans at all. So it's kind of a neat thing to see that. He goes and he, invites him over, and he says, come on, you're going to come over and eat with me, So they're munching up over there. And then it's funny because Toriko goes and says something about, the mission at hand. And obviously he came here, to go in and to capture this Regal Mammoth, so Gourmet Corp couldn't get it, right? So Mansom's like, what the... Oh, man, what the hell? Damn it, they pulled an okey doke on me. He's like, well, that GT robot was probably sitting here just to distract us. And while we were playing with the, what do you say? Well, we were distracted with something, they went and got the cheese. I mean, the Regal Mammoth, So he's like, oh, man, they got my baby and this and that, And Rin says something like, really? My baby? Really? So then we go and he's freaking out, obviously, because he thinks that, oh, man, we've lost the Regal Mammoth. So then Rin goes and she says, oh, yeah, by the way, I forgot to tell you, I got word from my brother. He landed on the island and this and that. And, and her, what? And then all of a sudden we find out that her brother is Sonny, one of the four kings, because then, Toriko goes and she says, oh, really, Rin? Sonny's here? And she goes, oh, my God, he addressed me. He talked to me. He said my name, because she's still got the wet panties for Toriko. And she even says when he's talking to the wolf, she's like, oh, that wolf is so lucky, because Toriko's like talking to him and petting him and shit. So she's definitely a little bit cuckoo, but at least she's a little cuckoo for Toriko puffs. Anyway, so then we find out, that Sonny is there, and he sent word, and he's on his way in, and he already captured the Regal Mammoth. So, oh, okay, well that's wonderful, right? So then we go and we're taken over to, and we see Gourmet Corp's number 6 headquarters base, whatever, right? And it looks like Dracula's castle. It's like this dark castle with these spires up on the top of a mountain, and everything's just dark and craggly looking, And we go inside this castle and we see this Bay, the person that was controlling the GT robot, and he looks like a sloth. He looks like frickin' Gollum from Lord of the Rings, right? And he's bitching and complaining about, oh, yeah, you want to fight me one-on-one? I'll take you out and rip your flesh through your bones and this and that, And then this other guy that gets introduced, that he's this weird-looking dude that, I don't know if he's wearing a mask or if he's just all fucked up. I don't know what it is with these people. I don't know if they're all reanimated corpses or what, man. But this guy looks like, he just looks real weird, man. Looks like a Frankenstein amalgamation. Looks like he's wearing a mask for Halloween. And his name is Jojo, right? And so he's just like, what are you talking about? He's like, basically like, shut your mouth, stop talking big. The GT robot during your fight with the director and Toriko took 16 critical hits, meaning that like pretty much 16 fatal blows that it took and endured. Can you take that many? You got 16 lives in you, So he's basically telling him, stop being a little bitch trying to talk big, So then they go and they argue about, okay, well, did the other GT robots get their, the ones, there's 4 other ones I think they said that were sent, did they get their mission completed, capturing the Regal Mammoth? And he's like, well, we sent them, but we haven't heard back from them, this and that. Maybe they beat us to the punch, or they were a step ahead of us, And they're kind of pissed off if that whole scenario went down. But then we go and we go back to, so that was just kind of the brief introduction to them and actually seeing these weird looking people, creatures, whatever you want to call them. And then it kind of goes back to the actual, the actual area, obviously, where the biotope number 1. And we go and we see come walking up out of the water. And we see just kind of briefly the feet, the this, the that. The panels go, and then the next page, and then all of a sudden we see this character, Sonny. And Sonny honestly reminds me of just some kind of like hippie Rastafarian type dude. He doesn't have dreadlocks, but he's got like this long flowing hair. And he's actually on the cover over here, I believe. Or maybe it's the next one that he's on the cover of. I remember seeing, and it's all different colored. It's multicolored like a rainbow. And it's just these long locks of hair that go down to like his waist. And anyway, so he comes walking out of the water or whatever it is, and he's of course he captured the Regal Mammoth. And the last page of the chapter is a double page spread of him with his arm, his right arm held up, and he's holding the Regal Mammoth that's tied up or captured over. That's got to be 100 times his size above his head, like it's nothing, So that's how the chapter leaves off. And actually, my chapter question is, what do you think? Just in our brief introduction so far of these trolls, these Bay and JoJo from Gourmet Corp. I'm sure that there's going to be more that'll be revealed about them as the chapters go on. But what are your thoughts for those of you that are just starting to read this with me, or those of you that kind of want to reminisce and go back? Just from your initial impression of what you've seen of these characters, what do you think of them? So remember to leave your answer to that question in the comments down below. Feel free to hit the thumbs up, the like button if you should think that I deserve it, and subscribe if you haven't done so already. We will look forward to catching all of yous in the next one nation.
Just subscribe, my friends. You have to trust me. You won't regret it.